How you doing? So it's November, and for a lot of you that means Nanowrimo, the National Novel Writing Month, which I've seen people go either way on it, whether they think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I recently read an article, I believe, on Salon.com, which talked about how nothing struck fear into the hearts of agents and editors at publishing houses than NaNoWriMo, because everything that they get in December is not worth their time to read. Which is, you know what, whatever. I'm neither here nor there. I mean, I say do what you want to do what works for you. You know, write a 50,000 word book in a month, and I mean, you'll feel accomplished. My only suggestion is that at the end of that 30 days, when you have that 50,000 word manuscript, don't send it anywhere. Don't. You have to revise it. There's no way you had a chance to give it an adequate revision in 30 days. So that's my first piece of advice. But what's been happening at my vlog here is that I've been acquiring lots of questions and things from commenters, and I've been promising that I would, you know, do answers to these questions, and never get around to it because I make a decision to do it and then work calls me in or something. It's just been crazy. But things are loosening up now, so I thought I would do some more videos and go from there. So the first question I'm going to answer is from the Metalhead Bookworm, and you can check her out by clicking the link. Let's see, she does reviews. She's pretty cool. Let me see. Her question is about how to keep your character voice consistent from chapter to chapter or throughout the course of an entire manuscript. And I think that I had sort of, like off the cuff, given her a suggestion to go back and revise the previous chapter so that you sort of get a feel for the voice before you start writing new words for it. But there's some other ways you can do it too. And what I like to do to make sure that the book is consistent, or that the voice stays consistent, is I like to read it aloud. And when I read things aloud, I always assign a specific voice to it. Like there are certain ways I read certain things aloud. Like if I read a fragment from Running with Scissors, and there's a certain Southern element to the book that I felt like needed to be put in there, so I read it that way. Like if I was reading Sharp Objects aloud, and I think I did that before too, I would sort of lend it a very dark, sort of gritty kind of a voice. And if you know what it sounds like, if you know how you want it to be read by other people, if you know how you want them to hear it, then it'll help you to go along. So I'm going to pull up my current work in progress here, which is this is not Velveteen, so it's not anything you need to hear necessarily, because it's probably not going to be on your radar. It's by another pseudonym. It's something else. But it starts, along the path of her morning walk, Rebecca spotted a prosthetic leg tucked under a fallen tree, a pale ivory thing jutting from the wet leathery bark as though a marker in an abandoned book. She took pause and propped her rifle against her shoulder. The artifact lay at the base of a steep hillock covered in an emerald carpet, a deceptively lush undergrowth pocked with a warning of lotus blossoms. So, I mean, it doesn't really give you anything about the story, except that what I'm trying to inflect is a sort of Indo-Chinese colonialism, which is like just this esoteric descriptor of, because the story is set in Thailand in like the 20s, and there are certain things that I can't do. I can't contract it or try to make it sound very modern, because it won't work otherwise. So the voice then takes shape, and then, I mean, I'll occasionally give it accents when I read it aloud, things like that. But as you go through the book, as you're starting a new work, go back a couple of pages and read it aloud. Get a feel for how your character narrates the story, and what that sounds like in your head, and that'll be much easier to keep going with your writing. Let's see, another one. How do you keep track of all the characters in a novel you're writing? Do you outline their relationships to keep track of them before you start writing, or is it more organic than that? For me, it's much more organic. I know when I first started writing, and when I first start writing anything new, any new material, I definitely pants it. I have to get a feel for what the character sounds like, that kind of thing. And I'm only really interested in the main character and their primary relationships. Anyone else that's in the story that doesn't have a major impact on the plot line becomes sort of a described the same way as like a room would be described. Just sort of like a wash. You know, they become more setting, kind of, if that makes any sense at all. I don't like to outline a whole lot. I like to do very vague outlines because I think that I write a lot of comedic stuff, not that I do necessarily in my YA work, but when I do write comedy, if you outline a whole lot, it strips out the organic quality of the humor. I found that to be the case in one of my books for a New York publisher, and I had outlined it to the T, and it was like the humor was really, it was really difficult to get it in there. Really difficult. That book took a long time to write. Anyway, so I hope that answers your question.